is 5th. And Bobby Rahal, the Honda's working for him. Let's go to Gary.
Nigel Mansell just pulling away from the pits here. He came in, left the engine running for some time. They took the front nose off, then they shut the engine down, got it replaced. Front wings new, now fired up, and he is back out there. So he will try to get out there, possibly collect 1, 2, 3 points, who knows. Still a very, very tough task. And remember, he won one other pole this year, Paul. That was on the streets of Australia. And then in the rain, he made a couple of mistakes with spins that cost him any opportunity for early season points. And now with this problem, his championship hopes of repeating looking real dim. But as Sam pointed out in the open of the show, it's still early in this season.
The 3-car, Paul Tracy has assumed the lead. We'll also be keeping track of that battle right there. Emerson Fittipaldi with Robbie Gordon just behind him, Teo Fabi, and then Michael Andretti. As they begin to pick the pace up now, they'll be coming back to a green flag.
Paul Tracy may win this race, but I believe he will arrive in the pits to a stony reception from the Penske team. Remember, Little Al was put out of this race by his teammate Danny Sullivan last year, right toward the end. So history has just taken it's repeated itself here.
Scott Goodyear, the 40 car, wisely gets out of the way. He is a lap behind the leader. He sees that battle coming through. Good sportsmanship there.
You need sportsmanship on this track because of the narrow confines. You have to give the other guy a chance.
It's really quite a narrow track. You can watch as you watch the guys go around. Concrete on both sides, sometimes steel and concrete, but it generally is just a very narrow track.
Robbie Gordon in a battle for second place with Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi just in front of his tire up there as they run along the river here. The water just over to the left.
What Gordon has added this year to his arsenal of skills is patience. I've said this before, but you see, this race is a perfect example. He was mired down in 5th and 6th place throughout much of it. He made no mistakes. He came slowly up. Suddenly, he's battling for a position on the podium.
And even though he's not making mistakes, Sam, he's still charging hard. Robbie Gordon is definitely one of the best newcomers that we've seen in a long time, and he's with a good team, and we're on board with him right there in the Valvoline Cummins car, and it's a good camera shot that we have.
Paul Tracy is 1.5 seconds ahead of Emerson Fittipaldi. So in just those few laps since the green, Tracy's been able to pull away just a bit. This is the battle on the course for second between Fittipaldi and Gordon. Teo Fabi has been held up by Scott Goodyear and is trying to get around as he runs in 4th place and would like to get back in this fight.
You can certainly see a different groove that the different drivers take as you watch the cars go through those 2 sharp turns right in there.
In traffic again second gear. Watch how much he tends to use it. He'll go up to top gear here, which in this case will be 5th, because on road courses they must mount the reverse gear.
No driver likes to be under attack from a brash, young, hot driver behind. Emerson Fittipaldi knows that he needs to keep his distance ahead. He's fighting as hard right now as he possibly can to keep those several car lengths ahead of Gordon, because the minute he's only a car length or so ahead, then he has to worry about being passed. Right now he can drive his own race, Gordon drive his own race. But it is so much better to be the pursuer here. In Gordon's heart is the excitement of the chase. In Fittipaldi's is the fear of what's happening behind him.
Except that Emil's pulled away a little bit. He doesn't really have anybody. He doesn't have Robbie Gordon breathing right on him right now. He's definitely got a lot of room there for being a little bit more careful, Sam.
That is true. He's up to over a second ahead of Gordon right now. I think Emerson has been faster throughout the race, and we're seeing him able to pull away just a hair now.
But what is a fantastic run here is that of Paul Tracy, who has now pulled out 5 seconds ahead of Fittipaldi and has done that in 2 laps. Teo Fabi is finally around Scott Goodyear, and Michael Andretti will be the next to come up and try Goodyear in the order of the race itself.
Well, Tracy, of course, won 5 races last year and is winless so far this year. It would get him off to a terrific mid-season start here if he could win this. But as I said, I don't think it'll be overly popular.
So looking ahead to Teo Fabi, 4th would be Fabi's best finish since Long Beach in '93.
We talked about the Canadians, of course. Here's Scott Goodyear, a Canadian. Now a Canadian is in the lead. If you look south from Belle Isle, it's an anomaly of the relationship of Canada and the United States that you can actually see Canada to the south from this one place. And that's why there's so many fans over here from Canada. It's really close by.
These views from the aerial films helicopter, occasionally will take that run along the backside.
That's looking west there over toward the United States. Over to the right of this shot is east in Canada.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You say Canada's to the south or to the east?
South and east from here.
It is.
Isn't that
South
amazing?
And east.
Yeah.
All right.
The idea of you two in the geography lessons.
It's frightening, isn't it?
I don't think we know where we're going. North, no, north from south.
Let's stay on racing. You can barely get through that.
Michael Andretti here in the target car, you see right in the center of the screen, has shown this season that even when things do not go his way, he soldiers on. He's had a really tough time with this car from time to time. I know he almost threw his helmet in frustration on Friday. I saw him. I was standing right next to him. He managed to pull it back just in time, keep control of himself.
Doesn't look like it's working too good right now, Stan. I can see it quivering quite a bit. That isn't like Michael.
Well,
No,
he runs
but
in
he's
fifth
fit.
place. He wants to get around that car, the 40 car, the Budweiser car of Scott Goodyear in front of him, so that he can get back in his fight with Teo Fabi. This is holding him up a little bit.
With Goodyear, this is not a battle for position. He's putting a lap on Goodyear.
Goodyear runs 11th right now. Bottom half of the top 10, Rahal in 6th. Villeneuve, he runs 7th, followed by Guzmin 8th. Brian Hurta is 9th. That gamble didn't pay off. And Alonso Jr. is 10th.
Decisively faster was Michael up through those very fast turns.
Here comes Michael. And here comes Rahal.
Well, Goodyear absolutely is letting him get by. He realizes that he's down. He's letting him get by, which is good sportsmanship and is what you should do if you're down a lap.
Yeah, but of course what happened there is Bobby Rahal was able to come up and get in direct contact with Michael Andretti. So this is now what would have been a battle between Michael and Teo for 4th has become a battle between Michael and Rahal for 5th.
And a battle between a Ford engine in Michael Andretti's car and a Honda engine in Bobby Rahal's car. This is the recently modified Honda that we talked about. Different ignition timing, different exhaust sound, more torque than it had last week at Milwaukee when it had a pretty good run. Development year for Honda. They are getting better with every race.
The target car is Michael Andretti. The Miller car, of course, Rahal. Jack LaRue, you have something for us?
And Rahal will have a tough time getting around Michael. He may be able to get it done, but Michael will definitely make him work for it. Nobody tries harder than Michael does.
True, but there is traffic ahead. Michael's under a lot of pressure at this point.
Let's try Jack LaRue again.
Hello, Paul. There we go. Mic was closed. That's the problem with me if I can't talk when you don't hear me. I wanted to update you on the situation with A.J. Foyt and Brian Hurta's car. The gamble didn't pay off for one major reason. During that last long caution period, full course yellow, Brian made a typical rookie mistake. He was unable to close up quick enough and found himself mired back in 11th spot. A.J., figuring that discretion was the better part of valor, brought him in for a splash and go just before they went back to green flag racing.
So A.J. Foyt still playing a strategy there as we continue to watch this battle for 5th place. Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti. At the front of the field, it is still Paul Tracy, with now Nigel Mansell well down in the order, back into the pits once again. We'll be back. Grand Prix, we watch the leader, Paul Tracy. He has a 10-second lead over 2nd place Emerson Fittipaldi. Robbie Gordon is 4 seconds back behind Fittipaldi. Then the battle in this field develops between Teo Fabi, Michael Andretti, and Bobby Rahal. We take a look at the race summary at the conclusion of 66 laps. This is a 77-lap race. 83 miles an hour was the average speed then. It has come back up to 84 miles an hour since then. And the record in this race is 83 miles an hour. So despite 4 yellows, they are running at a record pace. Paul Tracy, car 3, still at the front of the field. But we keep an eye on Nigel Mansell, who came in just a few moments ago and had his belts tightened down and now is back into the pits again, rolling very slowly toward Gary Gerould. Gary, you have any idea why he is back in the pits once again?
Don't have a clue this time, Paul. We just came down here. We were 2 pits away, and we await with the team. And not in sight from our vantage point yet.
The car's not going to make it. He's going to have to get
crew's on the run now, Bobby. They're headed toward the car.
They've got him. Some of the officials have him, and then the crew will take over.
He definitely has a dead engine. He doesn't have any power, so that's the reason he couldn't get down to you there, Gary.
So Nigel Mansell sits by the side of the track and becomes no factor whatsoever in this race now as he falls steadily down through the field. the key player is Paul Tracy, car number 3. Remember, Nigel Mansell last year was trying to get around one of the safety vehicles, and in doing so got pushed off of the line into the slippery part of the course and eventually into the barrier.
The track conditions are much better, though, toward the end of this race than they were last year, I believe because of the harder compound that Goodyear brought to the race this year.
Tracy is running without any traffic, clean air all the way, so he's able to really make time up on second place. Look at there, how far back it is before you see anybody even in sight.
There's Fittipaldi.
Long way back.
Tracy picked up another 2 seconds out from Fittipaldi in just that last lap. He's now 12.3 seconds ahead of Fittipaldi.
Last year when Tracy went on his mid-season tear, winning so many races there, it was after a 3rd place. It was at Portland last year. He was 3rd at Milwaukee last week. So there's something about a calm finish that seems to settle him down. Then he gets hot.
Paul Tracy is running the fastest laps of his race. In fact, his fastest lap thus far was just 3 laps ago at 104.3 miles an hour.
Nigel, of course, is in championship trouble being out of the race, but he can take some solace in the fact that the leader of the championship, Alonso Jr., has had, trouble as well and has been delayed. He's currently running just 10th.
Back through the order, Robbie Gordon runs in 3rd place. Teo Fabi is 4th, and this car, Michael Andretti, is in 5th place right now, trying to pursue Teo Fabi. Bobby Rahal is just behind Michael.
You see how close behind Michael Andretti Bobby Rahal is in that black and yellow car that we're now looking out over the nose of. Honda-powered car with Rahal. Rahal almost never, ever makes a driving error. He's fast and he's very, very skilled.
Let's go to the pits. Gary Gerald is with Nigel.
Nigel has come out now with the helmet off. A motor problem ends up being the culprit finally?
Yeah, we've had an exciting day, haven't we? One thing and another, but we're having a great dice there with Emerson, and I think maybe the back marker in front of him made him brake a little early, and that's why I tagged his back. But then we got going again, but then I think something's happened with the engine. The throttle cable's either broken or something, but it's not working too good at the moment.
You got out of the car after the incident, then got back in. Then we saw you with a second pit stop securing the belt. Were you harnessed in to begin with?
Yeah, I was partly. One of the belts was undone, and I radioed to the pit where were we, and they said 20th place, and it wasn't worth taking that risk for so many laps being out of the points, so we came in and put the other belt in, and then as it happens, we've had a mechanical problem anyway.
It's got to be a huge disappointment because of this point situation when you look at where you are now in comparison to the great success, particularly on the ovals at this point last year.
Yeah, but it's been an exciting race, and I think it was very good up until we had a problem, and there's a lot of racing still left in the season, and the Newman Haas team worked superbly. They deserve better today, but that's motor racing. We've been in it a long time, and we know that next week will be a new week.
Any announcements about your racing future in the next few days?
It's over at the moment.
All right. Thank you, Nigel.
So Nigel Mansell, you just saw Teo Fabi come around. There comes the target car of Michael Andretti and the Miller car of Bobby Rahal. Now that is a battle for 4th place. Teo Fabi currently occupying that position.
Rahal has worked everything he can do. He's gone low, high, used every groove he can use. He's cut across the curb, but he can't pull up on Michael. Now, he knows right there he only has 5 laps left. So, and look right behind, there's Villeneuve. He's trying to get up into it. All of these guys are right together now.
Both Michael Andretti and Jacques Villeneuve are driving Renard cars, and I talked to Adrian Renard, the owner and chief designer for that company, and he said he was disappointed in the way the teams did not work together. Obviously, this is their first year in IndyCar racing. They really need to share information. He had hoped that there would be more inter-team spirit than there has been.
Sam, that isn't competition if you're giving the other guy your secrets. Maybe you better tell Renard it doesn't work that way.
Not in the United States, anyway.
Fight here for 8th place. The Hollywood car is Mauricio Gugelmin, and Brian Herta is just behind him. Brian started 19th, now runs up and does his fight with Mauricio Gugelmin. This is the closest fight on the course right now. Paul Tracy is still pulling away, but not nearly as fast as he was earlier.
Gugelmin might have hoped for better from today. Remember, he started 5th and was running 5th and 6th in the early going. He's back right now in 8th in that very colorful car. You see it there. He's making a bid on the inside of young Scott Sharp, who's a lap or two behind.
Now Sharp is running 14th, 2 laps behind. He's not a factor in this fight.
Passing is a little bit harder right now also because the tires are worn down. The track is as slippery as it's been all day, probably a little bit worse. With no tires or light of fuel, sometimes when the track gets slippery, a little heavy load of fuel makes the cars go faster. So that's the reason we're seeing passing so hard to do right now.
This is exciting stuff, though, as Brian Herta is in an ideal